is a great work that's being done in Nicaragua, and I'm proud to say that it's not just a charitable work to meet a physical need, but the need that is ultimately being met by what's going on in Nicaragua through the Viera Water Network is a need for Christ. You know, we see so many things on this earth. Everything that we see that's physical that God created is meant for us to be a way for us to understand more about Him and to reach Him for others. And I'm proud to welcome Daniel Richeson from the Viera Water Network, who we'll be partnering with. Daniel, come on up, man. Thanks. Have a seat, bro.
Here?
Yeah.
The nice seat?
Cool. Well, you can have the nice seat,
I get the nice seat.
Yeah, you get the nice seat. Well, Daniel, if you would, just kind of share with us a little about who you are, your story, how you got into this. What's the deal with this, man?
Okay. Well, again, my name is Daniel Richeson, and I'm the director for Viera Water Network. And really it all started out of a vision of probably 3 years ago. My in-laws were traveling through Africa, and they were combining, 10 different wells in a couple of countries, along with the Jesus film and some other stuff that they were doing. And it was out of that I think they'd given over the years, but actually seeing the need for water, but also how many doors water opens, not just that now I have water that I can drink and it's clean, I'm not getting sick, my kids aren't dying, but it also opens the door for agriculture and livestock. And it's a tangible way of showing them God's love. And so in that, it opens the door to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with them. So it's a combination of water and then, as we've called it there, living water, as Christ called himself in John 4. So we started this nonprofit just a year ago, and we're working in Nicaragua, Haiti, and Zambia right now.
Cool. And now, specifically, kind of sketch with us more what, water is. You think we're used to having clean drinking water, and we've shared this before, but kind of what are some? It's a real, honest, dangerous need throughout our world.
Yeah, maybe you've heard of some of these statistics. The one that blows me away, and as I've traveled, I've seen this, is that there's more people in the world right now that have access to cell phones than they do clean drinking water and hygiene and sanitation. The odd thing is, even when you're in some of these countries, they may have a cell phone and they have no electricity to power that cell phone. So there's technology that's gotten out ahead. But the sad thing is, it's gotten out in front of the church too, is that there's 1 billion people still in the world without clean drinking water on a daily basis, which means they go to a river, if there's a river nearby, which is not a good place for water, or they'll just dig a hole in the ground, and that hole is a lot of times sitting right next to their latrine. Obviously, it's contaminated very easily. So not only is that a huge need physically, but a lot of times in those same cultures, the church just hasn't gotten there yet. The gospel's just not there because it's so rural. It's cross-cultural ministry is hard. There's some languages that, we haven't developed the Bible completely in. And so a lot of times those two are one and the same.
Yeah, so now, what's some of the things you've seen God do through this? Kind of share some of those victories.
Okay. I'll share one, and then I'll share just a quick story about how it really relates even to being here right now. But just recently, when we were in Nicaragua, we were drilling a well, and we asked the Jesus Film team to come in, and they actually had a Nicaragua Jesus Film team, so we didn't need to translate it. These guys were locals. And if you've ever seen that, it's the book of Luke on video. And so a lot of times it's hard to kind of sum up the gospel, but in this hour and a half, it walks through the gospel of Luke and gives you a chance to trust Christ, and there's a way to get plugged in further. So we asked them to come in to help us dedicate this one well. And actually what they got to do is they got permission to go to the school across the street, if you will, and share it with every kid there. And out of that, 3 days of sharing the Jesus Film, 148 people indicated decisions for Christ, and then we need to follow up with the local churches. But that wouldn't be something that you could probably bring in here to this school and to show the Jesus Film, but there are opportunities when you get into areas like that when you're going to serve and you're going to give them clean drinking water that they'll say, hey, come on in, you want to share something else, tell us anything else. And so that was a win. The other thing in terms of like what we've learned is just to trust God. We've been... Early on, this past September, we were praying, God, how do we go about this? Could we meet maybe a pastor that has networks in these areas? How do we begin to make the local partnerships in Nicaragua, Haiti, and other places? And we were in Nicaragua, and we saw another guy, and we could tell he was an American, and we were like, hey, let's just go talk to him. This was in the capital city, and we were about to fly out. He ended up being on the same flight with us. And as we began to talk to him, he said, yeah, I'm a pastor. And we told him what we were doing. He said, well, actually, I'm down here training pastors right now. There was about 200 leaders and pastors at this training he was at. And it turns out it was Larry Baser at First Baptist Melbourne.
Yeah.
And so God actually took us to Nicaragua to meet a pastor 20 minutes away from us. We operate out of Rockledge. And the crazier part, and I could tell you the longer version if we had time, I'd actually been in Larry Baser's house about 10 years earlier for a Thanksgiving meal, and he didn't remember me and I didn't remember him. I think we've both shaved our heads since then, but I'm actually really good friends with his daughter and her husband when we lived in Orlando about 10 years ago, and we didn't have anywhere to go for Thanksgiving, and they took us home, and it was Larry's house. And so it's just God, when we've been praying for real specific stuff, God's been real specific in his answer, but it's been in ways that it's just like it doesn't make sense to go to Nicaragua so I can meet a guy that I could have met him here if I'd have just had another opportunity, but I didn't. So that opened up the door to meet you and to do some stuff in Nicaragua too, so it's great.
Yeah, if you see some people, I know Jen and Jason, you see some couple people on stage that have T-shirts, Andrew, Katie, Bay West T-shirts. What we've been doing, we actually fronted the money to design those T-shirts, and we've been selling them. And 100%, we're not recouping cost on it, doesn't matter. 100% of the money that comes in for the sell those T-shirts is actually going to partner with Daniel and Viera Water Network in Nicaragua. And because, I want to be very honest with you. When we started Bay West, I have no desire to just be another gathering within another town that, we just show up and we never live for the good. Because I believe that God instructs us to live for the good of not only the community around us, but our world as a whole. And it's difficult to find things that meet a need, that is a ministry that meets the need of Christ. And that's why I was really happy to be led to Daniel here. And if you would, can you kind of share with us a little bit about the project that we're partnering with you on?
Yeah, let me lead into that by saying this. When we began to think through what we wanted to do in terms of really meeting physical needs, real needs, felt needs, and then also bringing with that the gospel, which is the eternal need that everyone has. There were some things that really convicted me, and one of those was in Matthew 9. You see that Jesus looks out over the crowd, and he says it there. He describes them as harassed and helpless people. And then later on in 2 Corinthians 5, you see that Paul says, we're therefore ambassadors for Christ, as though, and this is the phrase that really got me, it's as though God was making his appeal through us. And so it's interesting as we think about God is working in the world, what is our response? What are we to do if we're therefore God's ambassadors and God is actually making his appeal for salvation through us? And so what we've decided that would be best as we talk through this and the money that you're going to give is there's a community called Las Lajas, I think it's called in Spanish, and it's in Nicaragua. Here's how you'd get to it. Those of y'all that were just in Granada, if you left Granada or even Managua and drove for about 2 hours, and then you got on a horse and rode a horse for about 2 hours, you'd come into this community. And mainly it's because the horse goes as quick as the truck at that point because the road is so bad those last couple of hours. But there's 8 communities out there, and one has already been completed, so this would be the second of the 8 communities, and they have really no access to water. There's not a good way to get a drill rig in there and to drill, but they're in a mountainous community, and they actually can tap a spring. And so what we would do is we would pay for the materials for the PVC pipe, and then this church that we're partnering with down there, it's actually Maynard the translator. That's what I call him. That would be our lead contact, Maynard the translator. And he and his church come along, and I wish I could have brought pictures and showed you, but the community, kids, old folks, everybody, and the church digs together, and then they eat together, and then they dig together, and then at night, because there's no electricity in the community, I saw pictures where they had flashlights and they were still digging. They were just trying to get it done. But they're bringing water that way, and then it gives them an awesome opportunity because they've already built these relationships to then plant a church there and begin to have a ministry there. And so this is a place that you can begin to pray through. I'll begin to give you more information as we hear about it, but it's an awesome opportunity to go into a place where nobody else is working because it's really just very rural. They just don't have a lot of access to water, electricity, but water is such a key ingredient to living. And to opening up, like I said, agriculture and becoming a self-sustained type community. And so you're going to have the opportunity to engage with them and to really bring the gospel to them through this relationship too.
Yeah, and then what's interesting is I share with you, like, this is a Mennonite community, and we've a Mennonite church that's doing the work there. And it's actually a church that as I talked with Larry, we've had a relationship with them for a while. We've partnered with them in other endeavors and tried to support them in their ministry there. So, I mean, it's just amazing how God works this network of things, so that we can bring His name and bring the message of His Son to people that wouldn't necessarily be able to hear it or be open to it. And what I want to do right now is I really just want to pray for Daniel and their endeavors and for our endeavors together. And, because this, we can go and we can throw water at people and we can make it clean and all that type of stuff. But if we never meet the real need, which is the need for Christ, all we've done is increase their quality of life for the next 30, 40 years that they're here, or that we're here. If we meet the need for Christ, we can increase the quality of life to the maximum, to redline for the rest of all eternity. And that's where our eyes are on. But that needs a God. That needs a God that's beyond us. We partner with Him to do that. So if you would join me in prayer.